Welcome to episode number 220 of Destination Linux. Whether you're brand new to open source or a guru of sudo, this is the podcast for you. My name is Ryan, and with me today is the cast of Saved by the Bell reboot, Michael and Jill.
Oh, wait. Time out. Why Saved by the Bell? Let's. Could you clarify what this one is?
That was a nice callback there, Michael. The whole time out with Zach and all that. I mean, one of my favorite shows of wait, I can't admit to that. I hate Saved by the Bell. It was stupid.
I liked it. At the time, it was like it made sense at the time. I mean, I remember watching the show when I was like 10 or whatever. I like that show. Going back, maybe not so much.
It doesn't age well, does it?
No, it doesn't.
No.
But
it's fun when you're a teenager, that's for sure.
And when you put this in the notes, I was like, wait a minute. Why is it? Is there a reboot of this? And turns out there is a reboot of it. And
indeed,
I haven't seen it yet, but I'm very curious.
I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be an amazing show. But the reason I wanted to bring in Saved by the Bell in this episode is it actually ties into our show, because this week's episode is all about the past meeting the present. We have the famous Jill's Treasure Hunt. Of course, I pick when I'm hosting the show to bring one of the most popular segments we have back, because it makes it easier on me, because we got Jill here with the treasure hunt.
Good call.
To go through her museum of computers to share one of her favorite tech toys. Yay. We're also going to discuss the past and present with a Unix-based OS that's making a comeback. Then we cover some news on Wayland that's going to be making a lot of content creators out there happy, including me. Plus, we have our tips, tricks, and software picks. All of this coming up right now on Destination Linux.
Hey, Ryan, before we get into the section, because we're going to do some community feedback, because we got some really great email in the community feedback that we wanted to talk about. But before we do that, I have to point out something. You made a fantastic video on your channel. Or it's basically like a essentials guide for online privacy. So for those who haven't heard about it, give you like a elevator pitch about what it is, because I think they absolutely should.
I mean, I made a video. What else do I need to know? Of course. This video is actually really cool. So I worked with an InfoSec engineer to come up with a list of privacy practices and security practices that people could implement. And it's really a masterclass from beginning to end, kind of covering a whole variety of things, whether you're in-person shopping online, you're traveling on your own home personal computer, and it works for everybody. Linux or not, you can implement these steps. Of course, much easier on Linux, especially when we talk about things like encryption and stuff, but it's really for everybody. And the whole idea behind it is a lot of these videos and things out there about privacy and security go so deep, even some of the books I read, that at the end of it, you're practically unplugging the internet and wearing a tinfoil hat and sitting in the corner sucking your thumb. You don't get to enjoy any of the technology. And what this video, kind of the parameters I put around it when I was working with this engineer was, hey, I want it something that anybody can implement. You don't have to know the terminal. You don't have to know programming. You don't have to understand how networking works. Everyone can watch this video, implement these practices, and be better off than they are today. And so that's kind of the whole design behind this video, and its presentation style, which is very different from my channel normally. It's a whole kind of LibreOffice presentation. PowerPoint. I don't want to say PowerPoint. It's LibreOffice presentation. Yeah. And so, but it just goes through very easy to implement security solutions for everyone. And the feedback from the community has been awesome. Mm-hmm. And so I appreciate that. Thank you for bringing that up.
Nice. Yeah. Because it's definitely, when I first watched it, I was like, okay, essentials guide. Let's see how essential. Oh, wow. This is okay. We have to get more people to know about this, because this is a very good video.
Well, I was surprised because a lot of people I respect in the community. One of our patrons, Mouse, even mentioned earlier that there were some things in there that they found useful, and that's a big deal when you get the experts and people who are really knowledgeable saying, "Hey, there's something I learned in there." That was pretty cool, getting that kind of feedback. We also got some feedback from the community, Michael. Matt writes us. And what did Matt have to say?
Well, Matt says, "Hi, DL folks. That interview with Neil McGovern was great. Keep up the good work and keep bringing the interviews. I enjoy listening to them." And real quick, just to respond to that, we are going to be having some new interviews coming up in the next couple of weeks. So be sure to subscribe. And you're definitely not going to want to miss those. And also, he says, yesterday I upgraded my laptop from Fedora 33 to Fedora 34 beta to try out GNOME 40, and I love it. The Fedora
Yes.
and GNOME team put in a lot of work to make a polished experience out of the box, and it shows. Kudos all around to both teams. So if you missed episode 219, last week we talked about what's coming up in Fedora 34 beta since the beta released. And suffice it to say, we are all excited for this release. And based on Matt's feedback, I think it's clear Matt is also excited. And Matt goes on to say, I don't think I would change a single thing about GNOME 40 right now, other than the tray icons are still needed for certain apps like Discord and Steam.
See, I agree with this.
I totally
agree with
that.
this entirely. Yeah.
It's one of the few things where it's like, yeah, I do have to disagree that GNOME's decision to not have system trays. No, let's bring that back. As far as Fedora 33 goes, for Fedora 34 beta goes, Matt says that it seems pretty solid right now, even as far as betas go. I continue to be pleasantly surprised that the upgrade process for Fedora is so smooth when going from one major version to the next. Cheers, Matt. So I think that there's a lot of stuff to unpack here in terms of like the beta, and a lot of people don't want, when people look at the word beta, they kind of think, is it worth checking out because maybe it's too scary? And the point that Matt made about the going from major version to major version, even going from 34 or 33 stable to 34 beta, and how the transition was so smooth, it is a very good point that I experienced myself too.
Yeah, I kind of struggle sometimes because you can send the wrong message. I mean, a beta is just that. It's beta software, and that's how it should be treated. I know a lot of people in the community are saying, well, it's so solid, I use it on my production system and things. But I feel like it wasn't so long ago we were fighting that narrative and saying, hey, when it says beta, don't use it on your production systems because it's going to have bugs and issues. And so I want to go back to that world where beta is that. So I know they do really awesome in this beta software. And I'm so happy that people are getting involved in testing, not only for the Ubuntu week, but for Fedora testing weeks out there and getting all these bugs reported. But and it's a super solid distro. I absolutely love it. I still feel like, hey, until it comes out of beta, don't run it on a production machine, but definitely get out there and help, whether it's Ubuntu, Fedora, both help with this testing week, because this is the thing that's going to make the difference of whether these distros are successful or not, is finding these booting issues, finding these random issues with certain video cards, sound cards, issues. We got all kinds of new stuff loaded in Fedora, like Pipewire and things by default. So a lot of testing needs to be done to make sure that it's really solid on this release. But clearly, the team's already done an amazing job. Yep. I mean, clearly.
Very, very responsible of you, Ryan, and I agree completely that most of the time, betas, you should be taking consideration that it is a beta, and it does mean that stuff will be potential breakage. Not that it will break, but that it has potential for it more so than when it's a stable release. But I just wanted to give you like a quick story, because when we first started, testing out Fedora, this was like late last year, maybe. We started looking into Fedora more as a show, just because we were curious about like trying out new distributions, and we all had different experiences with different DEs and different distros and all that stuff. And we all independently decided to start trying out Fedora, and it just happened to be.
Wait, I thought Neil tricked us. No?
Well, I mean, that is a narrative that I've heard myself say many times. Okay. So this is very interesting, because when I tried it, I tried the Fedora 33 beta as the first time I tried the reassessment of Fedora, because I have tried Fedora over the years many times. But when I tried that, it was kind of like I wanted to play with the Btrfs stuff. So I installed the beta for the purpose of testing out the Btrfs thing, and then I just kept using it.
You just stayed there.
Yeah. I still currently am on the one that I installed as a beta, and it's been solid, which is one of the reasons I wanted to cover this particular feedback, because it's an impressive effort that Fedora has put in to improve their update and upgrade mechanisms and stuff like that. Because I remember a long time ago, there were some issues with the upgrades, and this one has been so solid for me. And but I do also want to reiterate, it's a very good point that Ryan made. The fact that it's a beta still needs to be kept in mind, because betas are more susceptible to change, because that's the whole point of them. You may experience some issues, you may experience some differences in the future, but in the case of Fedora, I think their betas are very impressively solid.
Yeah, very solid. I was so impressed with how well Wayland and Pipewire and GNOME 40 work out of the box together.
This just shows you can make risky changes in a
Mhm.
distro because it's risky to replace the entire sound subsystem inside of a distro and the
yes.
file system and having Wayland by default, which they did previously. But these are risky moves,
Yeah.
and you could still have stability with these risky moves. And I think a large part of that, though, lands on us as a community to get out there and test this stuff. So please do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I have actually, because of last week, I ended up signing up to the Telegram group for Ubuntu testing week. Yay!
Nice.
And I've done it in the past, but I do actually every cycle. I go through the betas.
Well, you certainly have enough
But-
computers, Jill.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in a second for sure.
Yeah. Well, we love hearing from our worldwide community. What we want you to do is get your official DLN mug, fill it with some coffee or bubbly, sit down on your nearest stool. It has to be a stool because that's Michael approved. And send us an email to comments@destinationlinux.org. And if you want to join the community on discussions, then join the DLN community forum by going to dlnforum.com. This episode of Destination Linux is brought to you by DigitalOcean and their new app platform. But I want to pause there because DigitalOcean just went public. They're now an IPO out there. That's really, really exciting news for DigitalOcean
Yay.
to have a company like this come in and the growth potential out there for them. So congratulations to DigitalOcean.
Absolutely.
Also, congratulations on this awesome app platform, which is a service solution to build modern cloud native apps. So basically, if you have an app, DigitalOcean is going to be able to host this for you by just you uploading it. You simply point your GitHub repository and let the app platform do all the heavy lifting for you. It handles the infrastructure, the app runtimes, dependencies, so you can push code to production in just a few clicks. You can secure your apps automatically. They create, manage, and renew your SSL certificates, which that in itself is worth it by... How many companies have issues with renewing the SSL certificates?
It is
it's a
surprisingly
big
common.
problem. It is really common. That alone, and also protects you against DDoS attacks. Run code with little to no customization. App platform uses open cloud native standards and automatically analyzes your code, creates containers, and runs them on Kubernetes clusters. The other thing I want to mention here is DigitalOcean's also amazing for just setting up cloud-based servers. You want Nextcloud servers. You want to go run some different test servers and things for different applications. They have 1,000 cloud agnostic tutorials out there. So if you're not interested in the app platform, definitely check out their other services that they offer on DigitalOcean. And they're going to give you $100 credit to do so. Just go to do.co/DLN. They're going to give you $100 credit. Going to that website tells them that we sent you there. So you help us, help them, help you, help us all. You get $100 at the end of the day. And we want to thank DigitalOcean for sponsoring this episode of Destination Linux. All right, Jill, take us into the treasure hunt. What do you have for us today?
Okay. Everyone's a lot of people are gonna know what this is.
That looks like a laptop.
Yes.
Nailed it.
But this is the computer that started the whole netbook craze of small, low-cost, versatile machines that ran Linux. This is the beloved Asus EeePC 701 4G netbook.
Nice.
Wow.
Nice.
You have one in your hands there. Look how
Yes.
thick it is.
Yes.
It's so tiny and adorable.
It
It's super thick.
is.
It's
I
super
had
thick,
to.
yeah.
I had to have this actually. My husband pre-ordered it for me for the Christmas of that year, so definitely had to have this, and because I was squeeing over it actually. A little baby laptop that runs Linux.
So did this come with Linux natively, or did you have to add Linux to it? I assume you had to add Linux to it.
No, it came with Linux natively.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
I didn't know that.
But first off, this is actually one of the very first and smallest ASU EPC netbooks introduced on October 16th, 2007 for $399. And for those of you out there who don't know, the E in EPC stands for easy to learn, easy to work, easy to play.
I like
I
that.
did not
Linux
know
should
that. Thank
adopt
you.
that as their tagline, I think. Yeah.
And you had a choice of 5 colors: black, white, pink, green, and blue. And I had a hard time deciding between the pink or the green. And I went with green because I have so much pink.
It looks white from
Looks
here, though.
white from this. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. I thought, oh,
There
there
we
we
go.
go.
It's a lime
There's the
green.
I
Yeah,
got
now
you
I see
now.
the lime green.
And I got my Tux decal on there, of course.
Very cool. What Linux did it come pre-installed with?
Okay, so it originally came with Xandros Linux pre-installed.
Interesting choice.
And then, but in 2008, the next year, ASUS released a pre-installed Windows XP Home Edition version. Sadness. No.
Right.
But you could still get the Xandros version for through quite a few of the models.
Now, do we know if this sold very well? I assume it may not have if next year they went to the Windows PC version, but was this popular when it came out?
Actually, extremely. In fact, it was so popular that you could go to Best Buy or Toys R Us, and they actually had at Toys R Us, they had a whole room of them and competing netbooks you could buy in different sizes with different colors, and many with Linux pre-installed.
Talk about bringing the past to the present, Toys R Us.
Yes.
Man.
And what was so cool is so many of us in the community thought that this might be the year of the Linux desktop because of the success of the EeePC. But the Xandros desktop, wasn't well liked by the general public, and who mostly bought the XP versions instead. But they were complaining, of course, because XP runs slow on it, obviously.
Right.
And the Linux version one ran beautifully, but since it was a foreign environment, for people to use, they weren't used to, Linux, the Linux version. What was cool was the Xandros was actually a tab-based ICE window manager desktop built from scratch using Xlib and the Qt 4.5 toolkit. But you had the option of installing the full desktop version or put it in advanced mode, which was a KDE3 desktop with a few modifications performed by Xandros. So, I liked the original Linux that was on here, but I had to take it up one step, and I rolled my own distro for it.
Oh,
You made your own distro?
Yes.
Wow,
So
Jill's very own. Can we get a copy of that? Because I want to try Jill's distro.
It's called Jillix.
I love it.
Nice.
Does that mean Destination Linux by default has our own distro now?
I think we inherited one, yeah.
Yeah, Jillix. Everyone needs to download Jillix.
So this is Jillix. It's window maker, and see, I have a lot of doc apps there. Some of them were I did heavily modifications on them, but I did a Debian based, and then built on top of that to make a nice quick, distro just for the EeePC. And I did my own theming, and got a little text penguin on the CPU.
That bezel, though, Michael. I know that bezel.
Bezel.
Yeah, I know you love bezels. That's
Yes.
a bezel inside a bezel.
Yeah, that's bezel inception right there.
Yeah. So what was so cool is I took it to the next year, 2008, took it to the Southern California Linux Expo, as I go to every year, and there was a window maker booth. And that made me so excited that the devs were there, and they were really impressed with my theming and putting together the Debian distro for it. So
if anybody else has one of these, can they get Jillix? Is Jillix out there somewhere?
No, it isn't. I had thought about releasing it at one time, but I never, upgraded it. And
we should release it. We charge $99.95 for it. Then we do monthly updates that also cost money. We'll be rich off Jillix.
Yeah.
And it will also require updates as you suppose.
Yeah, but you have to reboot when you do the updates. Can you program that in?
And it will give you 4 hours of time to decide whether or not to reboot. Yeah.
So but what's really cool, there were some very awesome, really cool, unique things about this laptop. For one, besides having an Intel Celeron 900 megahertz CPU, which is actually pretty good for a little computer like this, it had a 4 gigabyte SSD. And this was actually very important because it was one of the first laptops to use a solid state drive. And it was actually many people's first introduction to the speed that you can get from a SSD. So, that was very, very important. The Intel SSDs actually to buy didn't even come out till the next year. So
Incredible.
yeah.
They were so far ahead of their time with that. And
Yes.
did that have a webcam built into it? I can't
Yes,
tell.
it sure does.
Wow.
Hard to
That's
see it
crazy. It's
there,
probably
but
better than most of the laptops today's webcams.
actually, it's not bad. It's 640 by 480, but it's not
Yeah.
bad.
I mean, for that era, it's not terrible. No, it's not terrible.
Yeah. And so, and obviously it's a 7-inch screen. And that was the hardest thing for me because I do have not very good vision.
Right.
So,
That
and
is a
there were,
very small screen, like tablet
Yeah.
size in
Yeah.
today's
It's interesting
standards,
how
right?
the frame is kind of the same size as the bezels are the same size as the screen.
yes.
You put it all
Right.
together. There's a great a comment in the chat. The live chat, Bit Shady says, "I love that dark theme on the netbook." Oh wait, that's the bezel.
Yeah, that's the bezel. That's funny.
The bezel's at least 2 inches thick for those who aren't watching the video and listening to the podcast itself. I would say it's about 2 inches, right?
Yeah.
Across? Yeah, I mean,
2
that's
inches.
a big bezel.
Yeah, I had to hook up an external VGA monitor to it so I can install Jillix.
But think
'Cause
about
my
that. It
eyes-
actually has the ports to do that.
Yeah.
Jill,
Yes.
what kind of ports does that come with?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
the Apple people will be drooling out here.
No, amazing for such a small little bitty laptop. It has three USB 2.0 ports, and then a VGA monitor, a headphone jack, microphone input, an SD card reader that you can install another OS on, and mine has Puppy Linux on it.
Nice.
And it Ethernet. So yeah, it wasn't just wireless. So
Was the battery removable out of curiosity?
yes, it's got a removable battery. And
It's like we've come so far, but also gone so far backwards in other
Yeah.
things.
Just pop in.
Removable batteries, ports,
Yeah, every time we have a segment for Jill's treasure hunt, we get to enjoy some like fantastic hardware that she has just bringing us to us, and also disappointment with how the hardware is going in right now.
You're not wrong.
Well, I did have fun on Jillix. I updated Firefox so I could do some show notes on it.
Nice. So you used the netbook for working on the show this week.
Yes.
Nice.
And that's what one of our patrons
works.
said. They said they love that Jill's stuff actually works and that Jill actually uses this, which I think really does make this unique amongst other people who just have collections, because you put this stuff into production, you use it, you enjoy it still for its original purpose. And that is very unique. It makes it more fun, in my opinion.
Yeah. I still sometimes take this to our, Linux Chicks LA meetings, when we could have them in IRL before the pandemic, but I will continue to do so because when I first got this and brought this to scale, everyone was around me because I was one of the first people that had it.
Right.
So
well, it's kind of cool because it's aged to the point where now if you brought it to an event, everyone would be around you again to see it.
Yeah.
Because it's so cool. So it's kind of like it's come right full circle.
I love
yeah.
it.
And, they came out later, of course, with other models that were, bigger screens and more powerful and had a better battery. But this is still the very first one.
Man, Zeus, can we come back and do this again with the updated model with Linux on it by default? I mean, that would be sweet.
It's come full circle.
Yeah,
it's come full circle. We'd like to have a new mini, laptop, because one thing that killed the EPCs was the ultra portables and, the tablets and that whole movement. But it was because of the EPC that, spurred that of small portable systems that you can take with you. And now people want little laptops again. So,
yeah.
I mean, the Ultrabooks are kind of like at an interesting space because they took away the space for the netbook. But the netbook itself is like all it needed to do is just transition to what it was. Because if you have the thing about the netbook, they could now implement an LTE modem or something, and it could be like a combination of a laptop and a tablet. But it'd be not like a transformer that are. Both options are not that good, but having a single thing that has it doesn't even have to be a detacher. I don't want it to be detached really, just to be able to flip over and become like a notebook kind of thing you draw on. That would be a form factor I think a lot of people would be excited to see.
Yeah. Well, very cool. That is awesome, Jill.
Oh, I love my little Asus EeePC 701.
I'm
very
also
cool.
very happy you covered it on the show because I now know what the E's stand for in EPC.
Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah, a
didn't
lot
know
of
that
people
before.
didn't realize that. Yeah.
I also have to question: is it EPC or EPC? Like,
PC.
oh, you had to put it like the flair. I got it. EPC.
Yeah, that's why
All right,
it
cool.
works with
Yeah.
Jill perfectly. So more on mixing the past with the future. There's another thing, Jill, even though we're moving on from the treasure hunt that I have a feeling you
Yes.
have a lot of experience with. And this really caught my attention. The reason it caught my attention is the innovation occurring around the operating system space, spawning around Unix, just never ceases to stop amazing me the more and more that I learn. This week, some news hit about an OS that many of you might have never heard of. I'm sure some of you have heard of, called Plan 9 from Bell Labs. And they transferred as of March 23rd, 2021, from Bell Labs to the Plan 9 Foundation and relicensed it all under the MIT license, which makes it available for others to use and play with. So, what is Plan 9? I started playing with this week, and there's some really cool things that they were doing in here. But the team that created Unix also developed this operating system here. And I don't know, Jill, I got to leave it to you here at this point. What was your experience? Because you've used this, you've played with this in the past, right? With Plan 9.
Oh, yeah. So I originally had it installed on one of my old SparkStation 5 computers many moons ago. And in the mid 90s, actually, I just wanted to play with it and see what it was all about because I was running, Unix and IRX and all the different Unixes and BSD at the time. And Linux came along, of course.
Right.
What was so amazing, it was, Plan 9 was actually really a progressive framework for distributed computing and so ahead of its time. Okay, so here's what's cool about it is you can mount another computer's hardware into your own file system and stream data to it as though it were local, way ahead of its time. You can actually mount another machine's sound card and stream audio data to it, and it'll play on that machine's speakers. And you can also do that with network cards and other devices. This is, what we're doing now with NetJack with audio and, with using Docker. So it was really, the birth of
And to kind of explain that, so it was designed to make a network of computers geographically separated all the way back then function as a single system. And as I understood it, I could be a little off here, but you could have a bunch of different terminals and then another terminal acting as your file storage by itself for all of those others, which maybe by today's standards isn't super impressive, but back then was quite innovative when you think about it.
I mean, it was innovative for multiple decades even from them.
Yeah.
Like we got that at some point, but that was, that was at least a decade ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it really was the precursor to the Docker architecture. Docker's a little different, but that whole idea came from this operating system. It also, infrastructure for Plan 9 also made it into the Google ecosystem with the Go language. So, a lot of people knew how important and progressive this OS was and, had a lot of functions that classic Unix did not have.
And it's still in use today, apparently, as an example of the OS today. Plan 9's distributed design currently lives in on the current Nokia Bell Labs projects, such as worldwide streams, where stream processing programs are deployed across a network of compute nodes. They're geographically spread across 5G edge and core clouds there. So I guess the question is, what would this be used for now that it's kind of out there in the open source? Obviously, first of all, huge thanks to all of the awesome people who kept this thing alive, because there are a lot of people just donating their time, keeping this operating system going. Now it's release to the general public. Is there some use cases here, Jill, that you could think of for Plan 9 in the future?
Oh, yeah, definitely. For a more bare metal approach to networking. Yeah, so you kind of, you don't have to always use the cloud,
Nice. Yeah. I know a lot of
Yeah.
people that would make them happy to have that kind of
Yeah.
hybrid, right? Where you got some bare
Yes.
metal and some cloud in there. Yeah.
Exactly. Put two together. And another major thing was their text editor. It was called Acme. It was way ahead of its time and so powerful. And not only could you code with it, but you can open several text windows at the same time, like modern Linux text editors. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, and run a terminal from it. You could view docs in it and use the web command to view web pages. And you can even play some games in it, like tic-tac-toe. And
But
so,
I mean, I have to ask if it's the Acme text editor. If you made a typo, did it drop an anvil on you?
yeah,
Nice.
that's good.
A dad joke. Well done, Michael. Well done.
That was good.
So, Jill, two of the
Yeah.
things that really impressed me messing with Plan 9 out there was one, when you go to open a window, it actually lets you draw that window almost immediately.
Yes.
And so I thought this was really innovative. I don't know how to explain this in voice, but essentially, let's say you're going to open a browser. Instead of just opening a window there and then you go to resize it, what it does is it gives you basically like a resize icon and you draw that window out what size you want it as soon as you've clicked open, and that's the size it is, which I thought that's really, really cool and innovative there. And then the other thing is if you do an ls in the file system readout in the terminal and you right click on one of the readouts, like let's say it's a PDF file, it will open it from there. You can basically tell it to open from that list. You don't have to do another command to open that file. And I thought that would be something I would love to actually have in Linux today. Yeah.
Yeah. So here is actually it running. So
of course, Jill has Plan 9 on a PC ready to go to demonstrate.
Yes.
Everyone, this week's going to be one you definitely want to watch on YouTube or Library to get the visuals.
What I
here.
don't know is how
you can make it show.
Okay, camera.
Generally, turning that down, maybe the contrast up will help some. So,
Yeah.
what are some of your favorite features though of using this OS?
Okay, so here's what's cool is the window manager is actually called Rio. And the shell is the RC shell, and it's a lot like Bash. There were web browsers. They had their own one that they created for Plan 9 called Abaco, and it was a graphical web browser.
I bet it wasn't based on Chromium.
No,
It's already a winner in my book.
It was discontinued a while ago, but you could also use Lynx and Mothra and the text and graphical browsers. You know,
Mothra
classic.
is a very current callback to the new Godzilla movie.
Yes.
Not in it, but still.
Just taking stuff from the past and making it new again. It's
yeah, the show's just tying together like we meant it to.
This screen is just not working very well on the camera, is it? And like classic Unix window managers, you really need a 3-button mouse. And it isn't like, using a traditional window manager. So you just got to know that when you start it. And yeah, like Ryan was saying, you right click on the desktop and a menu for resize, move, delete, and hide windows actually pops up. And when you right click on the desktop and click new in the menu, that lets you drag to create a box, which becomes the new window for the RC shell.
I just love that.
And yes, and then from there, you can launch your applications. And then middle click brings up another menu, but don't fret. There are actually text instructions for using the window manager, Rio. It actually pops up when it boots. So, and actually it's showing right here.
You know what's amazing to me is that there is so much innovation left in these older operating systems that if you run and maintain a distro today, instead of just looking at what Mac's doing today or what Windows is doing today, go back and look at these older operating systems like this that were doing things that I would love to have some of these features they're showing here right now in a distro in Linux today that were from the 80s. It's crazy. Like, look for the past to see some cool things to implement for the future. That's what my time playing with Plan 9 really sunk into me, is that this is a pretty innovative operating system.
Yeah, especially in the 80s.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to work for showing, but maybe you could send some pictures to Michael and he can incorporate them into the video. Yeah. And that way people will be able to get to see some of the Plan 9 or download it yourself because it's out there now if you want to play with it. But it's definitely something I would say it took me a little while to get used to how to control everything, the right clicking in it. But once I understood it, really, really cool stuff.
Yeah, so I'll definitely get you some pictures, Michael. I was earlier, of course, it worked on my camera, but right now it's not liking it.
That's the wonders of live demos.
Yes.
Right. But yeah, this is actually really cool, and I think that we can kind of, now that it's in the new realm of like it's been rebooted, so to speak. Not exactly, but we could call it Plan 9 from cyberspace.
Yes.
Well, this was apparently named, so it's a reference to Plan 9 is a reference to Ed Wood's 1959 cult science fiction Z movie Plan 9 from Outer Space, which I have never seen. It sounds terrible, and I can't wait to watch it.
It's touted as one of the worst science fiction films ever.
I'm going to love it. So those who don't know, I love terrible movies. Michael, unfortunately, has learned this, and so the worse the movie,
the hard way.
The more I enjoy it. I cannot wait to check out this cult classic that it was named after there. I wanted to ask you, Michael, though, before we move on from this topic, the MIT license. You know more about licensing than me. Is this a pretty good license for this to be relicensed under? Does this allow people to utilize this extensively?
I mean, this is kind of like a long argument in terms of like which one is whatever. It's definitely a good license for this to be done in terms of like the permissiveness and making it being able to do all sorts of stuff. Now, this is a longer conversation we could have in a different episode if you want to do that. But the MIT and the BSD license, they are more permissive than GPL license. But the difference is they also allow you to do things like take the code and turn it proprietary. So
I got you.
That's why the MIT and the BSD license have this kind of asterisk next to them saying they are great, but they also allow too much. And that's why people prefer the GPL and stuff like it, where it does require you to keep it open and to keep it in the same license and sort of stuff like that. So it does make sense for them to do MIT in this case because their goal is to kind of like, present it in the sense of like, here, do whatever you want with it. But in terms of like license versus license, there are arguments for both sides.
Gotcha.
Well, the good news is that Plan 9 OS Bunny Glinda is showing it up fine. That's on the desktop.
Is that their mascot, Bunny Glinda?
That's their mascot, and it's our Nick's Geek Easter Bunny today.
Nice.
Because it's Easter.
Nice. We are on Easter. That's perfect.
Yeah.
You could say that we Plan 9'd that.
Yes.
Yeah. Man, the dad jokes. Those are only for hardware addicts, Michael.
No, not in this situation. When we have to embrace the dad jokes when it's so perfect.
All right. Well, thank you, Jill, for showing us a quick demo of that. And for those interested, we'll have a link in the show notes so you can go check out Plan 9.
This episode of Destination Linux is brought to you by Bitwarden. Get started right now with your free account at bitwarden.com/DLN. Bitwarden is a password manager, and if you're not familiar with that, it is a fantastic way to keep your online accounts secure. How does it do that? Well, it does so by creating tools. So, for example, it has a tool to create a secured vault that stores all of your passwords. It also has automatically generation of those passwords so that you don't have to come up with them yourself, and you can even automatically fill in those passwords for you on login forms. So that is a wonderful thing. The password managers...
And Michael, just real quick, how current is this? Because Facebook was just announced today of 500,000 accounts were 500,000 or 500. I don't know. A lot of accounts have been basically compromised. So this would be, if you're one of those people, number one, stop using Facebook. But if you still use Facebook, you could use Bitwarden and create a really complex password because you're going to need to change it if you are using it, like right now.
And there's also people who may be using their password for Facebook on other places. And this is a fantastic example of why you should never do that, because you should have a different password for every account on every website, just in case situations like that where the information is leaked would not backfire because you have a different password. So it only would affect that particular website. Now, it wouldn't be ideal for that website either, but at least it doesn't hurt other situations and other
Yeah,
accounts.
and our community corrected me. It's 500 million. So, just a small amount.
Just a small
counts.
amount.
Just a small
Right.
amount.
So Bitwarden solves all of these by creating these tools, and also they make it possible to use all of these tools, like the generation, the automatic filling in, the vault itself. All of these are available on multiple devices, so you can use it on your web browser on your desktop, or even your a desktop application, or mobile apps, and even on the command line if you like to do it. And in addition to having ability to store it in a secured vault, it also encrypts that data on your local device before it ever leaves your device, so that you're the only person who has access to that data. And I've been using Bitwarden for years now, and the reason I use it is because it's a great set of features. It does everything I want it to do, and it's also open source software. That's right, 100% open source, which means that the features and security and all of that stuff can be vetted and improved by the community. And they also go beyond that and do third-party security firms, where they bring in third-party security firms to audit the code to make sure it is as safe as possible. So if you want to be like us and use a fantastic password manager, then check out bitwarden.com/DLN to get started with your free account. And I think you want to check out their premium account, because they also provide a ton of great extra features at a ridiculously reasonable price. That is less than $1 per month. That's right, less than $1 per month, or $10 per year, will get you 1 gigabyte encrypted file storage, 2-step login with YubiKey, U2F, and Duo, Vault health reports, Bitwarden Authenticator for temporary one-time passwords, priority customer service, and so much more. So make the smart move like many from the community have, and go to bitwarden.com/DLN. And you basically get to benefit of getting great software and also supporting a company that truly gets open source. Because by signing up for that $10 per year premium account, you let them know that you appreciate them supporting the open source and ecosystem, and also supporting the Destination Linux podcast. Again, go to bitwarden.com/DLN to get started. And thanks again to Bitwarden for sponsoring Destination Linux. So in this case, we're talking about taking old hardware or old software and bringing it new. Let's talk about the future of Linux with Wayland, because Wayland is making major gains this year in Linux with Fedora and Ubuntu, both using it as default display servers in their latest release. Like the Fedora 34 KDE edition is getting Wayland by default. Ubuntu 2104 is getting Wayland by default. And the news gets even better now that one of the major gripes of Wayland has a plugin to fix screen recording capabilities. Now, this
was huge.
This is huge. This is actually much more than it seems, because you thought, it's just one application working on Wayland. Well, but in order to make this work, they also have to do a lot of stuff in the back end, which is what makes it very, very cool. So, without further ado, OBS Studio now works on Wayland just by installing a new plugin, and the new version of OBS 27 is going to have Wayland by default. So this allows you to now capture monitors and windows with OBS. And we should take a moment to thank all of the awesome people who make this work possible.
Yes.
Like the main developer of this effort, George Stavarkis. I probably said that wrong. I'm sorry. Says that this required some work throughout the stack, from making Mutter able to handle DMA BUF buffers to Pipewire, to improving the GTK development desktop portal for Flatpak portals, to creating a plugin for OBS Studio, to fixing bugs in Pipewire. It was a considerable amount of work. So with OBS Studio now working, the chances that Wayland will become the replacement to X11 is getting closer and closer than it ever has been. And I am so excited that this is becoming a thing, because one, the main stopping point and breaking point for me to not use Wayland is OBS. And now that that's there, I am so excited.
Well, I mean, this is one of those things where, it's easy for us to sit on the sidelines and go, well, if Wayland had this, then I would use it. But it takes some really smart people to get in there and actually do that work so that that stuff gets fixed. The work here, when you look at it and you break that down, that they basically had to do all of these different workarounds and patches and fixes and plugins to get this to work, shows you how complex this was.
Oh, yeah.
But because it was open source, we could get these really brilliant, awesome people to work on it, number one, because OBS is open source. And we could get in there and have this fix in place, which is one of the biggest reasons why I don't use Wayland, because I do content creation and other things. But I know a lot of people use OBS for classes and teaching and capturing videos. It's just endless use cases. It's one of the best software. When you talk about where is open source absolutely dominate? OBS is one of those examples up there, right? It dominates anything else third party out there. It's one of the best pieces of software out from an open source standpoint to kind of put on that pedestal. And so having it work with Wayland is a really big deal for a lot of us. And I think the only thing that really is left to do at this point is just to kind of button up, improve some of the stability. Not that it's unstable. Obviously, a lot of people, I've seen the comments from Fedora 34 giving lots of compliments about how stable it is. But from a gaming performance, there's some issues there at times with different games and stuff. So I think it's really just buttoning up now. All the major things that we've been waiting for to happen in Wayland have happened. So I know there's probably a lot of people who've been in the community a lot longer than me that have been waiting for Wayland for over 10 years. Going, yeah, okay, I hear that every year, but I really do think this is it. This is the moment where Wayland's going to start becoming that default.
Well, I think it really goes to show you like the amount of effort making this happen is so impressive, and we just have to acknowledge the fact that like we talked about in order to get Wayland on support for Wayland OBS to have support for Wayland, it's important, but also the work in order to do all these things, like we mentioned the DMA BUF buffer stuff, or the GPU memory, stuff like that. Like that itself is so important. In addition to the Pipewire stuff, to the Flatpak portals and all of these things, these needed to exist in order for this to work. And all of the people involved in these different projects making this possible so that George can come in and put it all together to make this functionality be able to be added to OBS Studio. And that is just, it's amazing. It's a great example, not only for OBS being a wonderful open source project, but also just the collaboration that is going into making this happen. It shows the power that open source offers.
Yeah, it's so amazing here. Getting OBS to work. Like you were saying, people don't realize how important that is, because that's a lot of the WebRTC infrastructure, and we need to get that working, completely. And it's getting closer and closer. So definitely.
Oh, that's a really good point you just made there, Jill. And I love this community member, Zoe, saying it's rewriting the bones of Linux. It will take time, but it's worth it in the end. I think that's a fantastic way to sum it up.
Very
that is a good point. And real quick, I learned this because of this news. The Flatpak portals don't require Flatpak to use the portals. And that is a very, very cool thing that the Flatpak team did. So that you can, they're using the Flatpak portals to make the connections between system calls and the OBS and the Wayland structure and all that, which it also turns out you can use the Flatpak portals inside of snaps and app images, apparently, which is very, very interesting. So that's just the effort and of all the different pieces. It's so cool. And just a really quick note, this is something that is related to more specifically the OBS news for 27 that's coming soon, that I just love it. And it seems like it's not a big deal, but it's such a big deal. Undo and redo is being added to OBS, and I am so excited about that.
So is that like for your 10,000 scenes you maintain? If you mess one up, you can undo
one
and
of
redo.
the scenes, we don't have to rebuild 50 to get it back.
Wow!
Yes.
Wow! Amazing. That is good news. It's the simple things sometimes.
It's the simple things in life. That's true.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of the simple things, and keeping with the theme of this show, I've been reading this book lately called Ready Player One. And I love this book. And I know there's a movie out and I haven't watched it yet. It's in my queue. But the book revolves a lot around gaming. And there's obviously a lot of callbacks to arcades out there. And Eric from the Sudo Show mentioned a gem that I just could not resist. And I've been playing with kind of in this throwback world called Red Hat Arcade, or arcade.redhat.com if you want to go to the site and check it out. And the statement on the site states, video games are not commonly known for being open source, either themselves or in their development. Red Hat would like to see that change. And this year we launched Red Hat Arcade, where you can play open source games built by Red Hatters using open source tools, assets, and engines in there. And these games are fun. If you're an old school arcade player, or you're brand new to video games and don't play them generally, check these games out here. I got stuck in Pod Escape Like,
Mhm.
I mean, stuck. I was here just kind of like, I was going to do a quick demo of every one. And the next thing I know, it's been like 15 minutes and I can't stop playing Pod Escape. Like these are the old school addictive games that we used to love growing up when we had arcades and malls. I know you kids won't understand anything I just said there. It's probably like a foreign
Arcade?
language. We used to have these arcades we'd go to and cabinets and put quarters. Nothing? No?
No,
Okay.
no.
But this is really cool. You can go online in your browser and check out these games here. But a couple things that really stood out to me. One is I love seeing Red Hat commitment to gaming because it's one of the most important industries out there. I know not everybody games, and that's okay. You're talking about an industry bigger than movies and music combined. So this is something where if Linux is going to dominate, if Linux is going to take off, we have to take gaming seriously. And I think having the big companies, the big pillars out there supporting gaming and doing things like this is a really big deal.
Oh yeah, when I actually saw this when they announced it during the Red Hat Summit, and I was kind of skeptical about like, would these be, are they just kind of like throwaways, whatever? They are quite fun. Pod Escape is a good example. I hadn't tried that prior because I got stuck into the Pity About Earth game.
Yeah,
And-
that's where I got stuck.
Everyone here got stuck in one of these
Yeah.
games. I love it. That speaks volumes, doesn't it?
Yeah, that the Pity About Earth is like a game. It's like sort of tower defense, except you're defending the Earth. And every time you get, you are successful in doing so, it gets harder and harder and harder. And the whole point about it, it's like the universe is sick of Earth, and you're trying to stop the universe. It's such a fun game. Then today, when we talked about it, you said that you got stuck in Pod Escape. I was like, I have to try Pod Escape now. And then I got stuck this morning playing Pod Escape.
Nice.
I couldn't escape the Pod Escape, apparently.
Yeah.
And Jill, you said you got stuck in the Pity About Earth as well?
Yeah. That was it was really fun. I like how it got harder and harder. It wasn't just a simple game. There's actually a lot of really good mechanics in there.
Well, I love the tagline for Pity About Earth. Most of the games have like a full descriptor on them, but Pity About Earth just says, "Humanity, I am sick of you." #2020. Yours truly, the universe.
Yes.
Brilliant.
It's a wonderful way of describing the game. And when the moment you start playing, you're like, yeah, I understand that tagline. It works. Yeah. And it's funny about the Pod Escape thing is that it started getting harder and harder. And when you said you couldn't stop playing the game, this morning when I was thinking about it, I was like, okay, just one more try. And I said that at least 7 times before I was like, okay, I got to do the show.
Yeah. Well, what's also cool is next to each game is a contribute button. And when you click that, it takes you to the GitHub code for each of those games. So if you were interested in getting into gaming, if you have kids that are interested in getting into gaming, what a great way to kick them off and contributing to a game that's completely open source and being able to see all of the inner workings of a game, the code from beginning to end, sitting out there for anyone to check out, which is really awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So this week we're going to spotlight a security auditing tool called Lynis. Lynis? I don't know how you're supposed to say it, but it's Lynis. I assume it's Lynis, but I'm not sure. So
you know what we need to do? We need to just start saying words really quick when you don't know how to pronounce them. That way nobody knows if we mispronounced it.
I like it. So today we're going to be talking about a a security auditing tool called Lynis. And is a battle-tested security tool for systems running Linux, macOS, and Unix-based operating systems. So not only does it perform extensive health scans of your systems to support system hardening and compliance testing, but it gives recommendations on how to fix the issues it finds as well. That is a very important piece of that should not be a shocking thing, because a lot of security tools are just telling you, here's the problems we found, good luck. And this one is a nice way of giving you the recommendations to fix it, which is fantastic. So the abilities of this software include security auditing, compliance testing for PCI, HIPAA, and so on, penetration testing, vulnerability detection, system hardening, and so much more. So if you're interested in checking out and also support, and you can also check out the plugins for more expensive testing. It's a great tool to have on your system if you are interested in doing securing of systems or hardening your servers and all that sort of stuff. So you'll find links to Lynis in the show notes below.
And that's Lynis. Lynis.
Right. That's what I said. For sure.
Yeah.
Bless you, Michael. That
Yeah.
sounded like you were sneezing.
So So our tip of the week this week, we're continuing our coverage on easy projects you can do at home with your $35 or less Raspberry Pi. In prior weeks, we talked about how to set up digital signage, a home VPN, and Docker. And this week, we're going to talk about setting up for your family a Minecraft server. All you need for this project is go to their website, minecraft.net/download/server, download the jar file. You're going to open that up. You're going to copy it to path. You're going to go into sudo su here, and then you're just going to unpack this. We'll have the commands there. It's just 4 steps to set up the server on a Raspberry Pi. Literally, just follow the on-screen instructions. You're going to have a Minecraft server set up once you set that up. And your entire family then, off of a Raspberry Pi, can connect into that Minecraft server and start playing Minecraft. This is a really awesome... It's like Legos for kids these days. If you don't know what Minecraft is, you need to definitely go check it out because it's basically the digital equivalent of Legos. You can create all kinds of amazing things in this. And I think it'd just be a ton of fun to have a server running up for Minecraft. And how amazing is it that you can run an entire server off a little Raspberry Pi for $35?
Yeah, it's quite interesting when you describe it as like the digital Legos thing. When I first heard of Minecraft years and years ago, I never understood why it was appealing. Like
you and me both.
It looked really dated. Like it's a new game that looks instantly dated by decades, and you're like, I don't get it. And then when I started looking into the technology, I was like, oh, okay, voxels instead of pixels. I still don't get it. And then I actually watched some people playing the game and showing the value of it. Like, oh, it's Legos.
That was the same impression I had of it until I started playing it. And then I was there for hours and hours and hours. But these kids these days won't get off my lawn, and they play Roblox, which is very similar. I look at it and go, I don't get it. But I've actually played Roblox and still don't get it. But Minecraft is one that I do get. And I think there's tons of educational value in it in being a game. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. The kids don't know they're learning, but they are.
That's how you get them.
That's how you
teach them a lot by letting them play a game that they think is just a game.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually set a Minecraft server up, Raspberry Pi server at one of our Linux Chicks-LA meetings. And that was the project, their first introduction to the Raspberry Pi to set up a server. And then we all played.
And it runs it well, right? Multiple
runs it
people
really
can connect.
nicely.
A little $35 computer. Amazing.
Yeah, we had
Absolutely
20 people connecting.
That's incredible. Well, a big thank you to each and every one of you for supporting us by watching or listening to Destination Linux. However you do it, we love your faces. If you want more DL, become a patron like all of these beautiful people here with us right now. You get a bunch of perks like unedited versions of the show, VIP access to events, live recordings of Destination Linux, and you get to hang out with us in our super secret, ultra huge virtual stadium behind the scenes.
Huge.
And
it has so many voxels involved.
Yeah. Totally.
So many. So you want to definitely become a part of the community and become a patron by be able to join the recording stadium and to get the weekly after show hangout. But in addition, we also have every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern or 1700 UTC. We are live at dlnlive.com. So this is an extra thing that everyone is invited to join and watch the show as we record it each and every week. And we can't wait to see you in the chat every week live. And in addition to that, you can also go to another fantastic domain that it's dlnstore.com to pick up some awesome swag.
Oh, like this, Michael?
Exactly like that. Like the shirt that Ryan has and Jill has and even the one I have too. There's so many great things at dlnstore.com.
You gotta catch them all.
Yes, exactly. You got to catch them all. It's like the Pokemon of apparel. So t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, stickers. We got some more coming soon. So check it out. dlnstore.com. There's so much really cool stuff there that you'll definitely want to collect them all.
And make sure to check out all our great shows here on Destination Linux. We have the Sudo Show, the Ask Noah Show, This Week in Linux, the Das Geek Channel, DLN Extend, Hardware Addicts, and get your game on with our latest show, Game Sphere. And I was just on the last episode with Matt.
It was so good.
So good.
It was so much better than my episode with Matt, Jill. No. Why did you have to be
yours was better.
No, not even close.
I'll be the judge.
There you go.
Oh, so go to destinationlinux.network and subscribe to all these shows to keep those penguins marching and the full Monty of Linux and open source awesome sauce.
Everybody have a great week, and remember that the journey itself is just as important as the destination.
Thanks, everyone. See you next week. I really like how you made sure to keep the dab in there.
Yeah.
Last week I was like, come on, where is it?
Come on, you can dab. Like, I'm not gonna not dab now.
Wait, so, okay, real quick, serious question.
Yeah.
Serious.
Yeah.
Deal in store. Do we need NFTs in the deal in store? Do we need to put some non-fungible deal in punks or
yes,
whatever?
for $100,000.
Yeah, DL punks in for NFTs.
You can't stop the fire.
You can't stop. Don't ask. I don't know where that came from. It just
Wow, man.
came out.
That was beautiful, actually.
I know.
Whoa.
I've learned something about Michael Joe that anytime I sing, he will pick up from it immediately. Like, not even joking. Like, I always come on and do some stupid singing thing, and Michael will just, without missing a beat, kick right in and start singing. It's a sign of a good friend, I feel like.
I think so too. I think
You're on the same wavelength.
Yeah. Well, we have the same talent in singing too.
Yeah, the same talent of not much. Audio good? I mean,
not when you're bending over, touching your toes or whatever you're doing.
I was messing with the mixer, which is over here.
Okay.
Is it good now?
Yeah. It's
Okay.
good.
Cool.
What is happening? All right.
Cool.
Can we start?
Cool. Yeah. Let's go. Are you ready?
No, I need another 10 minutes.
Okay, cool. I got you.
All right, you gotta give me the countdown, man. I can't start until I get the countdown.
17, 16, 15, 14.
Who starts at that number? That is so stupid. Nobody does that.
I don't know. It just felt right. Okay, it felt right.
Like, nobody starts at 17.
All right.
All right. For reals this time.
For reals. Okay. 3, 2. That's what you're supposed to do in Hollywood, where you don't actually count. You just go like.
You just look so stupid the way you're lifting it. I can't. You're like.
It's not my fault. That's how you do it in Hollywood. I was just trying to set the tone in a professional manner.
DL goes to Hollywood.
Where
that
is
could be a
the-
movie.
We gotta
Where's
go.
the thing? You gotta
3,
have
2,
the
1.
thing.
We have speed. That's what we used to say in
Yes.
studios
See,
for recording.
There you go. You got the thing.
roll 1, scene 1, take 1.
Action.
Welcome to
Accurate.
episode. Dang it, Neil! That was the one.
That was
Neil,
perfect. He
that was
nailed
the
it.
one. I was going to just go, and it was going to be perfect, and it was going to be
Yeah.
the best show. Now anything I do is just going to be a tribute.
Oh, the tribute. I love that.
All right.